KXSFLP San Francisco, 102.5 megahertz, and KXSF.FM.
You're tuned into Spark, informing minds, inspiring ideas, igniting innovation. Let the conversation sink into your soul.
This is Kelly Marlowe, host of Spark. Today, I'm talking with Yerou, founder of Style Rehab, who works with people to create a self-image that truly reflects who he or she is. Does your projected self-image reflect who you truly are? Let's find out. Stay tuned. Hi, Sue. Thank you for joining me on Spark today. I want to start by asking you, how do you describe your projected image?
How would I describe my projected image? Well, isn't that always the on-the-spot question? I view myself as an artist. I also am a professional. So with that, my self-projection of my personal image is fairly tailored, with some edge, some uniqueness as well, because that's when I feel my most confidence, is when I'm able to show and express that I am an artist.
Okay, so a little bit of edge, a little bit of professional, reflect how you like to project. And how does one project confidence then? Like in your case, what is it that's important for someone in projecting natural confidence?
You know what gives me confidence, Kelly, when I'm dressed in such a killer outfit that I've created and curated to show that I'm a professional and pulled together. My outfit is smart, but there might be something in what I'm wearing and showing to the world that's showing as well that, wow, she's different. She's unique. That's something really cool that I've never seen someone wear or do. I never maybe would have thought that for myself. But for me, my confidence is in just that.
So
when
you're saying
approaches me,
by taking a risk?
Yes. For me, they're little risks, but maybe for someone else, they're really big risks.
Okay. So before the show, you mentioned that everyone has a story, a history, and people who have influenced you, who you are, and over time shaped your personal image or one's personal image. Can you tell me more about that?
Sure. I think that this also is part of our evolution. So, yes, we have influencers in our lives at a young age, and as we get older, we meet new people, we have different experiences, and all of these experiences and people that come in and out of our life help influence us and our persona and what we're creating for ourselves. And so my story as a young girl might be one thing, but then as an adult, my story has changed, and it's really critical and important that we change with that as well, with our own evolution.
Well, you were giving the example of somebody you work with who's bulimic. Can you give us that vignette?
Well, someone in that circumstance, she's got an image of herself that has developed over time, or there was some moment in her life where she became self-conscious of her body and what she was viewing herself as. And so she tends to draw in for herself a more monotone presentation so that attention is not drawn to her, because she has her own view of herself and her body and her physique that is not welcoming to herself. So she's trying to draw even less attention from others to herself. And this has then also caused her to become a bulimic person who really suffers and is challenged by what her physique is. And that may have stemmed from something in her young youth, in her young adulthood, that maybe she's comparing herself to others, There's images that come to her. Maybe she had a friend who she admired and thought, wow, I wish I could look like that, but I really don't. And so then she is bringing herself to this eating disorder.
You had mentioned that parents, spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, just people who influence you in your life also influences how you put your self-image out there. Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind, honestly, is my mother and how she always encouraged me to be the free spirit that I am. And so with that encouragement and that influence allowing me to explore and express myself at a young age, that really has stayed with me throughout my life. And so hence my lack of fear in taking risks in things that I do in my life and how I present myself. So that is one key influencer for me, is my mother and her gift to me to be free and be who I am and allow me to wear a lampshade on my head when I went to school because I wanted to be different and I wanted to be unique, and she supported that.
Can you give me another example of a client that you work with where it was very clear or obvious that the person was dressing for someone else or was heavily influenced by a role model or somebody that has, has had major dominating influence?
Yes. One particular client, she was very influenced by her husband. He had an ideal of what he wanted her to present to the world and how he wanted her to dress and stand and be poised and such, but that wasn't her true being. It wasn't in her comfort zone. She was not comfortable being on parade, if you will, or being, presented in this way where the clothes were too tight. They weren't comfortable. And these were all his ideas and his ideals of what he wanted her to be. And it did not blend well for her, obviously. She was uncomfortable. She didn't even know how to create the looks and style that he so wanted her to create. So that was very stifling and confusing for her.
So then how would you suggest one think about it differently and not having all those influences control or just pull you in a direction that may not be who you are?
I think we need to just sit with ourselves and identify who we are and what we're capable of and what risks we're willing to take with our persona and our style and our way of showing the world who we are. And if we have this strong influence, a partner in her life who's such a strong being, it's time for a conversation for her to say, this is really who I am. And maybe make some compromise as well, right? I think in life we have to make compromises. And sometimes she could take a small risk that leans towards something that her partner, her husband, was suggesting. And that could be a small risk for her. But it doesn't have to be this whole new identity that she creates based on what he wanted.
So are there actual guidelines for creating one's self-image?
I think it is just that. It's just diving deep into who you are and asking yourself to examine what your story is, where you've come from, who are you today, what is your message that you're sending out there. Maybe even ask some other people what their view is of you. And that sometimes really helps us, hone in on what we're projecting and, oh, wow, I didn't realize that I was projecting that at all. But your best friends or your family members or colleagues might say, oh, well, yeah, you are really projecting this other message. That might not have been your own intention. But that's where you have to take a look take some inventory, examine what we're doing, what's your message, what's your true message, and what actually is the message that people are receiving. And then that will help you.
And what risk you're willing to take, right?
Sure. And you don't have to always take risks. It can be, something really simple that also can be exciting. If we look at a risk as something that's exciting, then it makes it a little bit easier to take that small risk.
What is it, situation dependent at all?
Of course. You're not going to present the athlete at the business meeting or the board meeting. You're going to be presenting yourself in a professional manner, so you might speak differently, you will dress differently, your tone will be very different than will be out on the ball field where you're having a great time and you're screaming and yelling and having the time of your life in your sport.
So you definitely have to know your audience for
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so what if you're getting negative feedback or vibe that you may be getting about your projected self-image that you put together, and even though you're confident with it, there's something that doesn't feel quite right in the way that people are responding to you?
You know what? That is such a gift when that happens. And this is an opportunity then for us to take that feedback and really look at that. Really just say, whoa, I was totally missing the ball on that. Here I was wearing this or putting out that I thought really expressed this aspect of myself. And yet the way other people are reading it, now granted, other people are coming to the table with their own story and their own values and their own belief systems, right, to make a judgment on us based on what we're presenting to them. But when you get a pattern, when you see a pattern in what people are giving you feedback about, then it's time to really take a look. What is it that I'm doing? How can I make some changes? You can ask these people for some suggestions and really be open to that. It's a great opportunity.
So you do have to examine the negative feedback you're getting.
Oh, absolutely. 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 It's a great opportunity to make some changes.
And what about...
And you can also say, you know what, that works for that person, and that's really not who I am, and that's okay, and I'm willing to continue on with how I'm presenting.
What about boundaries? I mean, there are boundaries, aren't they? There?
Boundaries in what we accept from others, or when... So, for an example, here's an example of a boundary that I'm thinking is you're a professional, you work in a professional office, and a guideline might be in your particular office that you can't wear for this particular office. Step it up so that you really shine when you walk into that event.
Hey, Sue, we're going to take a quick break and thank our underwriters. Be back with lots more with Sue Yerou.
Support for KXSF comes from Jane Poppelreiter of Compass Real Estate, serving west of Twin Peaks neighborhoods and beyond with thoughtful client service and attention to detail. Jane believes that contributing to cultural endeavors such as KXSF strengthens our diverse community by keeping the arts alive. Jane Poppelreiter of Compass Real Estate. Visit her website at www.janepoppelreiterrealestate.com.
We know you, and we know you're out there listening. Support KXSF during our Low Power, High Ambitions fundraising drive by donating now at www.kxsf.fm. Every dollar goes straight into keeping SF Community Radio on air, providing music and programming you won't find anywhere else. Live, local, and totally San Francisco. Support KXSF 102.5 FM. Donate online at www.kxsf.fm. Thanks.
This is KXSF 102.5 FM, streaming worldwide at www.kxsf.fm. And you're tuned in to Spark with Kelly Marlowe, informing minds, inspiring ideas, igniting innovation. Let the conversation sink into your soul.
with Sue Yerou on boundaries that are part of the personal image that we need to think about. So we're talking about taking risk and about what to do about negative feedback. And sometimes people aren't always aware of what the boundaries are when they're receiving negative feedback. So can you give us some input on what do you do when that happens, for example?
What do you do when you get negative feedback?
When you get negative feedback and then there are boundaries that people are not always aware of, let's say you're wearing sexy clothes and the question then is what kind of feedback you want to get back and how do you know it's the right feedback and so on.
Right. Sure. Okay. So I know someone who has a very voluptuous figure, and she's not shy about that, and she's pretty confident in how she presents herself. And in her office, she has worn clothing that was a little bit more revealing than her boss preferred her to have in the office. And her boss is a female. And so her boss did give her this negative feedback on how she was presenting herself in the office. And this woman was a little shocked, and she didn't realize that what she was wearing may have been offensive or inappropriate in the office and to her boss. And so she really, honestly, she did not see that at all because she was so confident and thrilled and excited about how she was put together. And so that was something that she had to examine and get some feedback from her boss to say, okay, well, the skirts may be a little too short or the neckline a little too revealing. And so she was strong enough and confident enough to take that feedback and make some small changes and still feel fabulous and wonderful, right? When she went back to the office and got that, great feedback from her boss to say, well done, thank you, and I respect you for taking that feedback in stride and making some small changes that made a big difference.
So you still do have to be aware of the message that you're sending, and this may be the challenge for most people because you don't know whether it's the person or it's you and how to figure out whether there's certain boundaries that may be crossed or, whether it's appropriate or not.
I'm maybe getting confused with what you're saying about boundary. The boundary coming from the boss or the boundary coming from rules of the workplace?
Well, I think you were saying that, let's say if you dress super sexy and you feel confident about it, and but you may be getting the wrong response depending on the situation. So you have to ask yourself, is it working for me? Correct?
Yes.
And is it sending the message that I want it to send? The message, the image that I'm projecting, is it the message I want to send out to others and
Correct.
elicit the response that I'm receiving?
Yes. And that's exactly what this client did. That's exactly what this woman did. She listened to what the boss was suggesting, even though the boss might be more conservative, more tailored in her approach. My friend, she just said, you know what, it's okay. I can make some small adjustments because I do want to be accepted and I do want to feel even more confident. I don't want to feel that someone is lurking at me or giving me sour looks or sour impressions. I want to present my best self.
So the takeaway is that you do have to figure out or maybe even ask a friend whether the message you're sending is the right one and how you may be perceived. And if you have to ask yourself if that's how you want to be perceived.
Exactly, which is what I mentioned earlier, is getting that feedback from colleagues and friends, especially those who are most close to you, that you feel safe to ask even, right? We want to feel safe asking our friends and family who love us and who know us most. You know, this is who I am, this is what I want to present. Is that what is coming across? And then to take that feedback from them and really re-examine if we need to.
And the people that you trust the most.
Absolutely.
Do most of the people you work with know who they truly are? Your clients, that is?
Well, I think that they come to the table questioning that because there's evolution. It really goes back to that. It goes back to transitions in our life. Maybe the person is now just had a baby and her whole body has changed and now she's a mother. Another person left a job and is starting a new job. Another person is actually transitioning from maybe male to female. And so that's a whole new identity that they're bringing to the table.
So how do you help them figure out then who they truly are and the image that they want to bring to the table to project that?
You know, we really have to just ask ourselves the questions. Who am I? What is my lifestyle like? What do I love to do? How do I feel about my body? What are my family and friends about that I am sharing myself with? What is my work environment? What inspires me? What interests do I have? Are there any icons that inspire me to dress a certain way? What is my age group? I want to be appropriate in dressing my age group. That is a great guideline to consider. And how many risks or what kind of risks do I want to take, and do I need to take any risks? Maybe I don't even need to take any risks.
In your experience working with people, what prevents people from projecting their true self-image?
Fear. Fear and confusion. Definitely those two.
And why are they fearful or confused?
Well, look at where we are today in 2019. We are inundated with social media, with imagery flashing at us, with stories that our friends and family and distant relatives post every day, telling us how wonderful their lives are and how beautiful they are. Everything is wonderful, and then we're having the images of celebrity thrown at us, and that can be really overwhelming and confusing to a person to say, wait, I want to look like that. Wait, I want to present that. Wait, that's my style. Wait, that's who I am. Wait, that's also me. Wait, none of that is me. Right? And so that's where the confusion begins. And then the fear is, well, I really don't know. I want to say that I'm this person, but maybe I'm really not. Maybe I'm more of a shy person than an outgoing, flamboyant person. And that's all great, and it's all okay. And so it's then in with a gentle hand and guidance that we then begin revealing what feels the best, what feels good. Because if it feels good, then that's likely going to send the message that you want to be sending to people, and people will receive that message when it feels good and when it feels right. So it really is an investigation, if you will, of revealing and peeling the onion layers of who you are and who you are today, not who you were 10 years ago, because it could be very different.
Is the fear coming from internal feelings, or is it from looking at themselves in their physical form, or both?
I think it's all of that. Absolutely. Because we do look in the mirror to get our first visual for ourselves, because that's the first thing people are going to, if you will, judge from us when they meet us, is that visual of what we're presenting. So you do look in the mirror. And so fear can be, who am I today? Wow, have I aged? I mean, I know at my age, my body is changing. So when I look in the mirror, I don't see that figure that I saw 5 years ago. And that fear of, what do I do with this new body? What works for this new body? That's stuff that I need to figure out.
What about internal peeling? What kind of questions would you ask for the internal peeling of the self?
I think that it starts with what is your personality? and some people, like I said, are more expressive and not shy and can want all of the attention on them. And then the other person might say, you know what, I really don't want any attention drawn to me. I am shy. I am challenged with starting conversations with people, but I don't want to miss the action. I know that I need to present myself as a strong person because I am, and so I want to just dive into what that might look like. And maybe that person is going to take some more subtle risks, but a risk to get them there.
Okay, so I understand that you are also like a Marie Kondo of closet purification.
Absolutely. That's one of my favorite things.
And people love to come to you for this. Why is that?
Because it's that overwhelming thing, right? That closet in the room. I don't even want to open the doors. Sue, please help. Help me organize this mess. I want to find things in my closet again. I know they're back there, but I have no idea how to even do this. And so that is what I love doing, is organizing and coming in and tidying things up and making it organized so that people can see what they have, what needs to be tossed, what they can be wearing that they haven't been wearing in 10 years. It's in the back of the closet. It still has dust on it, or some new items that they haven't worn yet that have tags on them. Let's figure it out. Let's work on this together and make it a manageable, working experience and closet for them when I leave.
But there's a way that you do it that makes you different.
It is not about judgment. It is about acceptance. We all have our story. We have our lifestyle. We're busy people, and the closet is not always our priority. And so I come in there, again, no judgment. Let's do this together. It's going to be a fun experience. It'll be a gentle experience. And I'm guaranteed that the person that I'm working with is going to have a great time.
And how do you prioritize?
I prioritize by when the person looks in the mirror and they have something on from their wardrobe and their face lights up. Well, that's a winner. That stays in the closet. That is just so obvious. And then they might try on the next garment and won't. Their face turns to a frown or confused, or they don't know what to do. I don't know if I like it or I don't. Okay, well, let's further examine that, right? So their body language, their face, it tells it all, really. And that's how we begin.
So if our audience decides to clean their closets after this session, what tips would you give them?
Well, I would say to purchase some new hangers first, and really just go through everything in their closet. And if it really is something that you absolutely love and have to have, then great, you keep it. But they can do a pre-purge, okay? So they can do a pre-purge. They can examine what's going on in there, and they can start thinking about, before I come, start thinking about what their message is to the world, because they could have a closet full of what is not included in their message any longer. This is their old story, their old message, right? And so I want them to really start thinking and prepping for when I come to say, Sue, this is who I am. I'm ready. This is what I want to present to the world. And then we can go in and see what their closet is telling a whole nother story.
But they can have more than one message. Maybe one story,
sure.
But different messages?
Sure. Absolutely, you can. I do. I have a romantic message. I have a professional, streamlined, tailored story, and I have a fun costume lifestyle story as well. So my closet is a big closet with lots of different themes in there. And that's okay, too, because they represent all aspects of who I am, that I send my message out to the world expressing.
Sounds great. We're going to take a short break and we'll return with more on how to present your best personal message with Sue Yerou.
I'm DJ Panda, host of Chop Chop Lollipop.
And I'm DJ Flying Japan, host of Oh Grow Up.
You can hear our shows on KXSF 102.5 FM on Saturday mornings starting at 10. But just in case you miss us live, you can hear us in convenient podcast form just by going to www.kxsf.fm, clicking on the red menu button, tapping podcast, and scrolling.
You'll not only find our shows, you'll find a huge choice of other KXSF shows, including Rock Nito in English and Spanish, Bishop Tom, Brother Bruno, Free Fall, West of Twin Peaks Radio, the Turkish Culture Program, Don't Fret, Francophone, and Carolyn. You'll never have the fear of missing out again.
You're too young to have FOMO.
You're never too young.
Broaden your broadcast experience. Go to www.kxsf.fm and explore all the great music KXSF has to offer.
And while you're there, click on Donate and help keep us on the air through 2019.
Thanks for supporting San Francisco Community Radio.
Generous support of KXSF San Francisco Community Radio comes from Charles Neal Selections. Since 1998, San Francisco-based Charles Neal Selections has been an importer and distributor of fine wines and spirits for wholesalers, retail stores, and restaurants across 17 states. Learn more about Charles Neal's focus on imports from family-owned operations throughout France by visiting the website at charlesnealselections.com. Thanks for your support.
This is KXSF 102.5 FM, streaming worldwide at www.kxsf.fm. And you're tuned in to Spark with Kelly Marlowe, informing minds, inspiring ideas, igniting innovation. Let the conversation sink into your soul.
Back with Sue Yerou on how to project your best personal image. So Sue, you also do photoshopping of models for one of the biggest brands in the world. What type of images are being created today as the ideal aesthetic?
Well, I have to say that the industry certainly has taken a turn, in my opinion, for the better and for a more realistic reality vision and image of the human figure and form, which I'm very proud of, honestly. Back in the day, there was a lot of morphing and retouching and skin changing and manipulating and softening, right? And make the legs skinnier, bring in her hips, make her breasts larger maybe. But today, we really are finding models that represent all shapes and sizes, and we're working more with a gentler hand on the retouching.
So we won't be seeing Barbie dolls as much?
Not from the work that I'm working on, that's for sure. And the industry across the board is making significant changes in this direction.
What about removal of age on people's faces? I always find that people look 10 years younger, especially celebrities.
Right. Well, I have to be honest that from what I know, that some celebrities do have carte blanche and will request their own retouching, so that you may still see. But overall, the goal is to not make people look phony or 10 years younger, 20 years younger. It is not the flow anymore. We're getting back to real people. And sure, we all wear makeup. We want to look beautiful and feel beautiful. But we have wrinkles. We have flaws. We have scars on our face even. You know what? The model was completely morphed. There's, certain scenarios, of course. But the goal of the companies is to not distract from their product that they're selling, right? And so if they go overboard, it can be distracting. And if there's, certain subtleties that they can manipulate, I think it's okay.
Just bad skin, right?
Yeah, Yeah. Right. Let's hope that person, they had a bad day. She had a facial the day before. That has happened to me, where I was working on a woman and she had a facial the day before, so her face was still blotchy and red. And it was just distracting. I didn't make her skin totally smooth and flawless because we all have pores, right? And so I did not take it too far overboard, but I just helped her out and added a little bit more finesse to the makeup.
What about the body shaming that goes on when you look at those
Oh,
images?
man, that is a struggle. And I, too, struggle with body shaming, to be honest with you. You know, my age, I'm getting older, and my body is changing in ways that it's never changed before. So I will look at these beautiful women and their images and their makeup and their hair and just beautiful, even with wrinkles. And I, too, have found myself looking in the mirror and thinking about that image that I saw and saying, why, what, how come, how did this even happen? What do I do? So, you know, and I'm a pretty confident woman, as most people who know me will tell you. But there is that element, you know, again, we are inundated with imagery now, with these social media outlets, and even the special effects that some of these apps were given for our photography, smooth out our skin or make us look like bunny rabbits even, right? And it just really can be shocking to then look at reality and say, oh no, but this is my reality, and I want to accept my reality of who I am, even though I may have gained a few pounds, right? We're all beautiful. We're beautiful from the inside. And then once we express that beauty, it comes out.
So either you stop looking at the images on social media or you accept what you look like and what everyone else is projecting?
I don't think you need to stop. I don't think you need to stop looking at imagery. If you need to, absolutely. There's no need, right? But if you love to look at the imagery, great. But it is the comparing. There's no need for us to compare these fantasy images or these retouched images or these over-affected images to the reality of us. We have to accept ourselves, right, for who we are and how beautiful and wonderful and amazing people that we are. But yeah, it's a tease. It sometimes is a tease and a challenge. I have to admit that, absolutely.
Well, my concern that it must be even harder for teenagers, for young adults who are developing their identity or defining it, to look at images and ask themselves, where am I going? You know, what direction am I going with the identity that I'm striving to become, or the person I am? Yes,
and it's very confusing, absolutely. And that's where the guidance of someone in their life, hopefully a mentor, a big sister, a parent, a teacher, can come in, you know, and help guide that person, young person, and really just give them, you know, a voice, give them their opportunity to maybe, hey, give me some yay or nay, give me some feedback, right? Give that young person some feedback as to how they're presenting themselves. And, you know, yeah, they're going to have the social media. They're going to do it. There's no doubt about it. It's a part of culture now. And it's just really about making the distinction. Oh, that's a fantasy image. Oh, that was a special effect. I can look at it and appreciate that beautiful image. And that's something that I would encourage people to relay to the young people who are so influenced and under so much pressure to create their selves and their identities and their personas, and have so much influence being thrown at them. They are the biggest market right now, is the tween and teen market.
I can only imagine how difficult it must be.
Yes.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back on how to project our best self-image with Sue Yerou.
It takes a village to keep independent radio alive and well in San Francisco. That's why KXSF 102.5 FM is looking for underwriters to support our station. If you are an individual who loves listening to local artists and bands, or you run a business that cares about cultural diversity in our city, your tax-deductible donation to San Francisco Community Radio is a great investment. To find out more about how to become an underwriter, go to www.kxsf.fm, click on Become an Underwriter, and help keep KXSF on the air through 2019.
This portion of your program has been brought to you by generous help from the Barrel Room at 415 Sansom Street right here in San Francisco. You already know that the Barrel Room is a venue to get a finely crafted cocktail, meanwhile stay for dinner with an evolving menu that changes to feature a new wine region several times a year. You know they also have a fully stocked wine store that you can get a bottle to take home or get enough to fully stock your next event. What you may not know is they have a secret door that leads to a more than 100-year-old speakeasy, and inside you can have a meeting, a private gathering, just a drink, or even a quiet dinner in. To find out where that door is and what it leads to, you'll have to call the Barrel Room at 415-956-6900 or go to www.barrelroomsf.com.
This is KXSF 102.5 FM, streaming worldwide at www.kxsf.fm. And you're tuned in to Spark with Kelly Marlowe, informing minds, inspiring ideas, igniting innovation. Let the conversation sink into your soul.
Back with Sue Yerou on how to project your best personal self-image. What would your advice be for staying true to authentic self and reflecting your internal values, Sue? What's the best way to do it easily?
I think the first thing that might not be so easy, I hate to say, is just to be honest with yourself. Really, just be honest with yourself and draw in on what feels good. What feels good for you. That is the true expression of someone. If it feels good, then it will likely project well to others.
What about sending the message that you want to share with the world? How do you best approach that?
How do you best approach
the message that you want to send? Is that different? I mean, so you're reflecting? You're basically making choices that make you happy and put a smile on your face.
Yes, yes.
And then at the same time, you're sending messages that you want positive feedback to come at you with. How do you put those messages together?
Well, you look in the mirror, you look in your wardrobe, you look at your life, you look at your lifestyle, and make choices. Make choices that work for you so that when you do go into that mirror and when you do step outside your door, you're proud, you're honored, you're excited to share this aspect of who you are. And whether you're like I said earlier, if you're a flamboyant, outgoing, colorful person, then those are going to be choices that you make in your presentation. And if you're more of a timid, shy, quiet person, then maybe your presentation will reflect that. But we want to really just stay authentic to what feels good for us. And then once we get some feedback from others, it will be that's really their story. That's not where I want to take the direction.
Do you feel that the people in your life, do influence you today? Still?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. I want to use this example, actually. My husband, he is a very flamboyant, outwardly social, stylish guy, and he really influences me. He has a heart of gold, and yet he shows this persona that's bigger than life and colorful, and that inspires me, especially as his partner, to reflect that same message. He pulls that out of me. He inspires me to go there where I naturally do, but even to the extent that I can and just exude all of this color and light and joy and fun. So right now, honestly, he's one of my biggest influencers in my life.
You suggest that you look to others for positive inspiration.
Yes, for positive inspiration, certainly, absolutely. And it could be someone you've never even met. I often find myself walking down the street, especially here in San Francisco, New York City, any big city, and I'm influenced all the time by people I just pass on the street, just by what they're projecting and their confidence, myself as a confident person. And then I see this flair that someone has created for themselves, and it gives me an idea, it sparks an idea for me. Well, you know what? That's a risky thing for even me. Maybe I'm going to try that. Maybe I'll try that too. Because it made me feel so good. It put such a smile on my face that this person was sharing this on the street of themselves. And what a great message and a great gift that they gave me. So yeah, I'm inspired for sure by people on the street who inspire me in a positive way. I think that's the only direction to go, is when people inspire you to feel good.
When they look good, they look like they feel good, they're confident, and they're smiling, and they're just projecting so much positive energy.
Oh, yeah, and then when they smile at you and what that does to you, wow. It's so good.
So what would be the call to action for those who are ready for a personal image revamp? They're like, I just want to start over because I don't think my story is strong. My message is clear. And it's, my image really reflects who I am.
Yeah. Yep. This is so good. Really just start with today. Who are you today? How do you identify your own personal image today? And it could be confusing because you might be thinking about the past or you might be thinking about the future, but where are you today? So just hone in on that. Think about who you are today. What's your lifestyle like? What do you want to project? And then a great tip is to ask some others. Those people in your life who you trust, who you love, who love you, who are going to tell it to you straight, right? Hey, how am I being perceived? What message are you receiving from me? And then the third thing I would say is just write down or think about what it is, what changes you want to make, what do you want to work on, what's your goal of this session or this transition or this work, what's your desired outcome? Start thinking about that. Write it down. Those are the top 3 calls to action on how someone can get ready for a revamp or a small transformation of exciting times.
If they don't know, they can always ask you.
Absolutely. My phone is here. Give me a call.
So I'd like to end with just a vignette that you can share with us of a transformation that's made a difference for someone.
Yeah. So I had the honor of working with someone who was transitioning from male to female. And she called me at the very, very beginning of this process and this journey. And I still get the chills, and I could still cry and get emotional about it because it is such an honor to work with someone who is taking such a risk in their life to honor themselves. And this person and I worked together for 2 to 3 years. And I got to witness this person transform and become who she truly felt inside she was. And granted, she was a little confused and overwhelmed and excited and all of it from all the imagery, that we were just talking about, all these images coming at her, and she could decide what she wanted. And we really broke it down to, but who are you? Who are you, sweetheart? Who are you? Let's express who that is. And we did, and we explored different things, and we tried a few different things. And we got onto that wonderful, wonderful path. so that her journey would then become so much easier for her to express herself. And my gosh, she just is thriving. I am so excited for her. She is loving her life. She is so in tune with her body. In that, alone is such a transformation, is when your body changes. Not only did her mind and her own self-projection and message and story change, right? Her body was changing too, and her whole life changed. And she is an amazing, amazing person, and I absolutely adore her. And I love working with people who are ready to make transformation. It is such an exciting experience for me and such a gift. And I know that she, too, was given this gift of working with someone who did not judge her, who respected her, and who encouraged her to really follow her dream and become who she is today.
Well, it sounded like it was risky in the sense that you're really opening your internal self up to really show the kind of dramatic transformation you're going after, and not knowing how you're going to be received, how you're going to be supported, and how you're going to be out in the world, at that time. So I can only imagine.
The most vulnerable. And yet the most open and ready person. And it just made it so much more glorious for me as well.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that story, and thank you for joining Spark today.
Oh, thank you so much, Kelly. I absolutely adore this program. I think it's so important. It's so important to ignite people, especially now. This is an exciting time, and thank you so much. What an honor and grace I have for being on your program today. Thank you for inviting me, really.
Thank you, Sue. Have a great day, everyone.